From courtside with Seth Lorinsky, I'm Brendan Glasheen. Tonight, Dean College visiting the UMass Boston Beacons women's basketball non-conference matchup. NEHC team in Dean College here facing the Beacons of Little East. Beacons are off to a great start this year, obviously, 17-2. Dean College 11-7. A nice break here to see what the Beacons look like around the rest of New England.
Yeah, the Beacons, after losing their first game or their second game in non-conference, have not lost since. 8-1. This is their last chance. And you get two young teams that are both looking for a really nice finish off to non-conference play. Two teams that are coming off a little bit of win streak and who are looking for a big win against another team that's over 500.
Coach Baugh's got to be thrilled with the start for UMass Boston. Also pleased with one of her best playmakers in Lydia Vitale, leading the team in assists per game. She's also making foul shots, doing a lot of the little things as a senior.
Well, the Beacons probably wouldn't be in this spot without their senior transfer. At Keene State last year, won a conference championship. She came to UMass Boston, and she's been a difference maker. She really not only brings a ton of energy to this team, but she brings a veteran leadership where you might not have that with a freshman point guard. And that's really helped some of the Beacons guards come along, and it's helped the Beacons in some clutch moments, especially late, like a game on Saturday where the Beacons needed it in a comeback win over Rick.
Vitale has fit in seamlessly. She and the Beacons are looking to get win number 18 in their 20th game of the year. Let's look back, though, at the Beacons' victory over Southern Maine the other night. All right, so a big win for UMass Boston over Southern Maine. You just watched those highlights there a moment ago. We'll look at the numbers between the two squads now. Again, Dean College coming in, NEHC squad with an 11-7 overall record, 8-2 in conference play. And you look at these two teams side by side. Both are shooting north of 40%. Beacons have the edge in points per, as far as points allowed per game. The edge also to UMass Boston on the defensive end. And on the boards, this is where you see a bit of a discrepancy, Seth.
Well, this is where this Dean team is going to run into some issues. UMass Boston, very young, but a lot of skill on the front court. Shania Osborne, reigning Little East Conference Rookie of the Week, had 19, a career high the other day in a big win over Rhode Island College. She had been starting the last couple of games. She'll come off the bench today. They also have Sarah St. Cyr, who stands at 6'3", and Joey Grassi, who really, she's listed as a forward. She can play the 3, the 4, or the 5, one of the most talented offensive players in the entire Little East. It's going to be interesting to see how this Dean team matches up in the front court because they don't look all that big, both on paper and looking at them in warm-ups.
They are 6th in the New England Collegiate Conference in rebounding, and as you see there on your screen, minus 2.6. Something to follow throughout the course of the night. Let's look at the team leaders for both the Beacons and Dean College, the Bulldogs. Well, you mentioned Ariel Grassi's had an excellent season, 16.3 points per, shooting north of 50%, close to 50% from 3. And Vitel, who we previewed before the start of tonight's broadcast, 82% from the line, leading the team in assists. Rosensteel is their top scorer, and there'll be someone, she'll be on the lookout here tonight.
Well, it's funny, going into this week, Rosensteel actually wasn't their top scorer, but it was because she was so good the other night at Leslie. Leslie was actually leading this Dean team by 9 points, or by 11 points late in the third quarter. 2:51 to go in the third quarter. It was a huge run. Dean was able to make up the 11-point deficit by the end of the fourth and then outscored Leslie 9-0 in overtime. And most of that was Rosensteel. 22 of her career-high 30 points came in the second half in overtime. Shot a very efficient 15 of 18 from the field. So the Beacons will have to deal with the hot hand of Shannon.
Bulldogs are led by Coach Graham Smith. And we'll try to find Coach Smith now. There he is, just watching back, relaxing. His team with an 11-7 record this year. And Coach Smith led Dean to a number 9 finish last year in the country, winning as coach in the program's history in just 5 years. That's awfully impressive. And for the UMass Boston Beacons, Christina Baugh in her 3rd season as head coach. A great turnaround, of course, here with the program. Led UMass Boston to the title game 2 years ago. And the fact that she's helped this program turn around, she's had some great individual players come through the program. But now she's getting the whole unit to come together and really put together an excellent season, 17-2.
Yeah, I mean, Christina Baugh has done a really nice job. She inherited a phenomenal roster her first season and led them to a bid in the conference championship game where they ultimately fell short to Eastern Connecticut State. But this was really the first time that she could have a team that was her team, and they've done a really nice job. Behind their 14 new faces, the Beacons with the win today will tie the UMass Boston school record for best ever start to a year. The 2010 and 2011 volleyball teams each started the year 18-2. The mark to watch, 23-2, set by the 2011 volleyball team for most wins to start a year with just 2 losses. So that'll be something the Beacons hopefully have a chance to catch, although they'll have to win today, and then they've got a big road contest at Eastern Connecticut State on Saturday.
Let's go to the part of the Bulldogs starting. Well, first we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and give you the starting lineups for the Bulldogs and Beacons. Again, you're watching the Beacons women's basketball team take on Dean College on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Paris changed my life, and I got there through UMass. Those very specific seminal moments in Paris. The subway. A man in a tuxedo walked in, and a woman in a long gown. And it was stunning. It all hit me. It was like a lightning bolt. There was this world of beauty and style that I wanted to be a part of. That was the beginning of the journey. And that all came through the University of Massachusetts. And that was really a key moment for me. That's one of those moments you never forget.
And we're back once again. Bulldogs and Beacons non-conference affair. Final non-conference game for both teams. Let's look at the Dean College starting lineup. They have a mix of everything: senior, freshman, sophomore, and a junior in there. Jemiah Cleveland is in the starting lineup with Morgan Turner, Shannon Rosensteel, who we had spoken about, the team's leading scorer, Sophia Church, and Emma Morrison, the senior forward in the middle at 6'1".
And Cleveland's a player to watch for this team. She leads the team in assists, steals, tied for the lead in blocks. She's a pretty good scorer, does a little bit of everything, and Dean's going to need that today. They're a team that runs deep. They were able to defeat Leslie the other day because of their have against the UMass ball. That typically rolls out 12, 13 players depending on the night.
All right, and let's look at the UMass Boston starters.
My name is Joey Grassi. I'm a freshman. I'm a forward, and I'm from Plymouth, Mass.
My name is Lydia Vital. I'm from Cambridge, Mass. I'm a senior, and I'm a point guard.
Alicia Quinones, sophomore forward from Stoughton, Mass. Katie Matthews, senior guard, Coventry, Connecticut.
Raven Kelsey, senior guard, Boston, Massachusetts.
That's a starting lineup that's helped the Beacons get out to a 17-2 record, and as Seth mentioned, they're trying to set more program accolades with a victory here tonight against the Bulldogs. Let's turn to tonight's keys to the game. We discussed the rebounding discrepancy, and you say here, the Beacons have to avoid another slow start.
Well, it happened against Southern Maine. They were outscored 18-10 on their home floor last Wednesday night, and the Beacons really couldn't get it going. More so in the second and third quarters against Rhode Island College. That's a team that they beat handily here in Boston. So it's happened back-to-back games. I mean, you're nitpicking when you're talking about a team that's at 17-2. But the Beacons do need a little bit more secondary score. In the last couple of games, it's really been Osborne, Grassi, and one other player. Last week against Rhode Island College, it was Raven Kelsey. The other night, it was Katie Matthew. But the Beacons, when they're playing well, will have 7, 8 players with 6 or more points rather than just 2 or 3 with 15 plus. And then in terms of foul trouble, I think the thing that Dean has in their advantage is their bigs aren't necessarily as strong or as big, but they are quick, and that can cause foul trouble, especially for players like Osborne, who really dominated in the block. She's got to be careful not to pick up a couple of fouls because she's been so good the last couple of games for UMass Boston.
On the subject of secondary scoring, is there a name or two that you have in mind for the Beacons that can emerge tonight?
Well, I think Vital's a good one because she's a pass-first point guard, but she's so quick that it doesn't matter who's playing defense against her. She can probably get to the basket. I think Tajay Mazik's gone through a little bit of a freshman slump. Alicia Quinones has been struggling a little bit. And Megan Dixon, who was suspended for a couple of games just to get back on track. She came back a couple of games ago, but we haven't seen her get that scoring touch that she had first semester when she was the Beacon's second leading scorer. So right now, a non-conference game where obviously you want to get the W, but you can work out some kinks before you head to Eastern. I think Megan Dixon maybe is my one real player to watch in terms of secondary scoring because she can do so much for UMass Boston when she's on.
After a 7-1 January, the Beacons are ready to play February basketball. We'll step aside for the national anthem.
The University of Massachusetts Boston. It's just minutes from downtown, and the Princeton Review calls it one of the best values in the country. A nationally recognized institution of academic excellence and research, UMass Boston offers more than 150 undergraduate and graduate programs, 16 Division III sports, and more than 100 student organizations. To learn more about the opportunities waiting for you at UMass Boston, visit in person or online. UMass Boston, a research university with a teaching soul.
All right, we are set for basketball. Beacons and Bulldogs. Final non-conference matchup for both teams this year. Dean's looking for its 12th win overall this season, and UMass Boston trying to improve to 18-2. Dean College looking for its 3rd straight win. We mentioned how successful UMass Boston was in the month of January, going 7-1. They're trying to win their 4th straight game. Bulldogs have taken the floor. Shannon Rosensteel is at midcourt, ready for the jump. And Raven Kelsey will oppose her. Tonight's officials for this Little East New England Conference matchup: Leslie Boucher, Christine Sampson, and Pete Dion.
And right now, the Beacons are going to change their starting lineup. So it's back to what it has been the last couple of games. A little odd substitution before we ever get the opening tap. It'll be Osborne replacing Quinones. So
Shania Osborne at 6 feet, freshman from Fairfield, Connecticut. It is Kelsey against Rosensteel for the tip. Beacons win, and they'll start on the right side. Here's Vitell, tonight's player to watch, leading the team in assists and free throw shooting. Dish in the paint, scoop and score for Grassi.
yeah, that's a really nice high-low that we've seen the Beacons operate when they have Osborne and Grassi. They'll take the bigger player out of the paint, and they'll give Grassi a nice matchup against the 4, and she's so lethal when she has a size advantage on the block.
On the head fake, Rosensteel comes up short. Vitell finds Kelsey. She fires and gets the friendly home bounce.
Yeah, got every single part of the rim, and this is a much better start from a Beacons team that went over 3 minutes without scoring a point in their last home game.
Come from behind victory over Southern Maine, and also a victory last Saturday over Rhode Island College. Pull-up jumper, too strong by Turner. Beacons by 4, minute into the first. In stride, Osborne is fouled, and she heads to the free throw line.
And that play is made by the really strong work of Vitell, pushing the ball in transition. Osborne running with her, and an easy catch as we'll see the first foul of the game go against Emma Morrison. But this Dean team recognizes that they have a mismatch defensively against Osborne. On that first possession where the Beacons actually had a chance to set up because they moved it in transition their last two, they were giving a lot of space to Katie Matthew, trying to bring the double team, which is going to be a problem if Katie Matthew can connect. She was really good against Southern Maine. I think she had 5 threes in that game. That's setting yourself up for disaster, but you have to pick your poison, and they've decided they're going to play a lot of attention to Osborne.
Bulldogs catch a break with a pair of misses, but they turn it right back over to UMass Boston.
And this Dean team is seeing a little bit of a different animal. The New England Collegiate Conference, not to say that it's a bad conference, but it's not as high of a level of competition as you see in the Little East Conference, where the Beacons at 18-2 aren't even the top team. That's UMass Dartmouth undefeated. So this is a different kind of competition as Grassi connects from distance.
7-0 UMass Boston to open the game. One of our keys tonight, get off to a strong start, and they've held serve so far. This pull-up jumper off the left of the iron by Turner. Vitell wants to push, accelerates in the paint, open three, Matthew, it's good.
And one of the important things is Dean's forced to use a timeout is if you get off to a hot start in a game like this where it's not only non-conference, but it's a little bit closer to your regular scheduled conference game on Saturday, means you can play the bench a little bit more. Get some of those freshmen who typically see 5 or 6 minutes, maybe a dozen, 15 minutes in the game. Rest some of your seniors, rest some of your players who are a little bit banged out. And this is the exact kind of start you wanted if you're the Beacons coaching staff.
Graham Smith takes the timeout. 0 signs of complacency. That has to be a key theme that Coach Baugh's pleased about.
Yeah, well, I don't think that Christina Ball was too happy after their win over Rhode Island College. Resiliency to come back, great. But the fact that you should never have been in a game like that against Rhode Island College team that has just one win in conference play, I'm sure that was the message on Monday and Tuesday in practice. So this Beacons team, happy to get the win, but they're certainly working towards bigger things. They're taking on an Eastern team that suffered their first loss in their last 7 last night. I think they were playing one of the Connecticut schools, possibly Trinity. So it's going to be a tough matchup because Eastern is never an easy team to play, especially down in Connecticut.
We're already looking ahead here.
I'm not looking ahead. I'm just saying these are the things that are going through the coaching staff's head. Obviously, I mean, we're 2:05 into this game. There's a ton of time to be played, but these are all things that factor in to the coach's mindset heading into a game like this.
Sure thing, right. Final non-conference game, and UMass Boston in the opening 2:05 on a 10-0 run. And what also stands out, everyone's touching the ball. It's been someone different in all these points.
I think 4 of the 5 starters have points, and the other one, Lydia Vital, has set up the majority of the chances. So the Beacons have to be pretty happy thus far.
Let's see what Graham Smith drew out of the timeout. Bounce pass into the post by Cleveland. She's rocking the white mask at the top of your screen. Turner dribbles out. 12 to shoot for the Bulldogs. Corner 3 on the way. Church, splashdown. And the Bulldogs are on the board. Just what you want when you're a head coach. Take the timeout, execute on the set.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge for Dean. A chance to settle down. First time these two teams have ever met. First time Dean's ever been to the Clark. In fact, first ever meeting between these two athletic programs as Dean's in its second year as a Division III program.
Matthew dishes to Osborne, and she squeezes for 2.
Osborne may have gotten away with a step there, but also Morrison with the early foul. She can't afford to be really physical there, and that's a really bad matchup against a physical big like Osborne.
Another turnover by the Bulldogs. Vitel, Matthew to Osborne again, but Osborne hit with the offensive foul, her first and the Beacons' first.
But something that you can live with if you're Christina Ball. Shania Osborne's running the floor extremely well to start this game, getting there before some of the bigs. And that time it was a really nice job taking the charge by Rosensteel, who's going to take an early seat, as will Vital and Osborne for the Beacons.
6:40 to play first quarter. UMass Boston's forced a couple of Dean College turnovers. First touch of the game here for Sophia Corbett, fresh off the bench, and she drives all the way to the hole.
That's a nice take. Really strong, able to get by one of the Beacons' better defenders in Kelsey, and that's important just to try to keep this game close.
Also, a Beacons reserve is checked in. Jelani Jackson, freshman from Brockton. On the back door, Williams kicks out, and Jackson sets up. 8 to shoot. And the teardrop doesn't go, and it's tipped out of bounds by the Bulldogs, staying with the Beacons and even 4 minutes into the first.
And that's where Gianna Williams needs to get a little bit better. She's just still a little cautious on offense. The Beacons are trying to run that same big-to-big pass high-low, and Williams just isn't as confident in her offensive moves.
Grassi connects from distance. Second made 3 for UMass Boston.
And this is why Grassi had so much success first semester. She's able to run around screens, get to a point, set, and such a quick release.
Runner by Cleveland. Denied by the rim on her own. Up the floor. Here's Kelsey, and she is stripped.
Yeah, just put her head down, trying to do a little too much on that particular possession.
Beacons by 10. First ever matchup, as Seth mentioned, between the two athletic programs. Up and under move by Morrison. And she lost it out of bounds. Beacons make a reserve change here as Alicia Quinones, who did not start, she was supposed to start, checks in, and she's going to get her first action here in the first.
And Dean's a fun little story. They were a junior college that had a lot of success in most of their programs, local school from Franklin, Mass, not too far away from Boston. Last year was their exploratory year, so they played half D3 teams, half JUCOs, and this year a full D3 schedule, and they're playing well. Above 500 in your first year at D3 is very impressive.
Quinones exploded to the rim but couldn't finish. A little scoring drought over the last minute on both sides. Runner in the lane, too strong by Turner. Kelsey takes away the loose ball.
Yeah, I think Williams credit with that block as she had a ton of size advantage there.
Tremendous feed by Grossi into the paint, and the finish inside by UMass Boston. Well done by Jackson.
Yeah, the Beacons are doing a really nice job of spreading the wealth offensively. Everyone coming off the bench is getting some early touches.
Lead is 12. Corbett turned it over, almost stripped by Grossi.
Yeah,
Shot clock down to 8.
I think Dean got away with the foul there.
Another reserve off the bench, Nicole Romero, the freshman, all the way to the rim.
Looks like Grossi was fouled by Chantel McCall on the steal, but the referees let them play. Don't mind that in the long term.
Romero played at Fitchburg High School. Kelsey takes a three and makes a three. Something she's worked on, huh?
Yeah, the Beacons as a team have really worked on their shooting, especially from distance. 4 threes here in the first quarter. Beacons are one of the top three-point shooting teams in the entire Little East Conference, shooting it at a 32% mark.
Here's Kelsey forcing the steal and lays it in with the left.
Well, Brendan, this is what we were used to seeing first semester when the Beacons were blowing teams out in the middle of a 15-game winning streak. This is, or I think it ended at 12, actually. This is what you wanted to see out of UMass Boston. Nice bounce back after a game that they struggled to get anything going offensively.
We'll take a break. Second timeout called by Graham Smith of Dean College. Beacons by 15 on the Bulldogs. 3:13 to play in the first. Play resumes after the second timeout for the Bulldogs. Beacons by 15. They've made 3 3-pointers already. And Corbett is fouled on the floor.
And the Beacons are going really small right now and very, very young. 1 sophomore, 4 freshmen. Williams is the 5. Quinones/Dixon playing the 4. And this is an interesting group we haven't really seen all season long together.
Beacon's second team foul with under 3 to play in the first. Baby jumper just in and out from Chantel McCall, a senior from Elmont, New York. Beacons making it move up the floor, and they convert on the jumper. How about Tajay Mazik with the finish?
And that was one of those players I mentioned the Beacons could use a little bit more scoring from. Aggressive move and found herself in some space to pull up jumper. Looked good.
Mazik, another freshman. She's from Hamden, Connecticut. Corbett, step away jumper. Might have gotten tipped away. They keep possession and reset the shot clock.
And that's the one issue when you play a smaller group. You might struggle a little bit on the boards.
That's the edge to UMass Boston against their opponents this year. Nearly +9 on the boards and almost -3 for Dean College this year. Beacon's third team foul.
Really like what the Beacons are doing defensively. They're swarming the ball. They've altered a couple of shots, and they're getting their hands in passing lanes. This has been one of their better defensive performances against a Dean team that they are capable of putting up big points.
Just 7 points through 8 minutes in the first. Shania Springer has the basketball now. trying to twirl through traffic, turns it over. Beacons on the move once again, all the way to the basket. Quinones lays it in.
This is just exactly what you wanted if you're UMass Boston. The aggressiveness has been there, execution. They're doing everything they need to do against the Dean team that probably hoped to come away with a nice little upset win coming into the Clark.
And Quinones, after the missed shot by the Bulldogs, mistakenly stepped out of bounds. So Bulldogs catch a break, and then another reserve checks in for the Beacons. Kaylee Gautier checks in.
And Gautier is a player typically doesn't see a ton of action in close games, so this is a chance for her possibly to see a lot of time if the Beacons can continue to hold such a big lead. Beacons have already gone through 11 players, and we're still in the first 9 minutes of action.
Gautier from Newark, Delaware. Under a minute to play in the first. McCall driving kick, and then a travel by the freshman Romero on the Dean side.
And make it 12 for UMass Boston. Whitney Fulton, who typically sees about 10 minutes a game, will check in for Mazik. So the Beacons continuing to go with just one non-freshman in Quinones. Question is, who's going to be the scorer out there right now?
Sure. Coach Ball will take this, though, right? Especially in your final non-conference game when the rest of them mean a little bit more.
Oh, it's a chance to stay fresh. The Beacons have a big one on Saturday at Eastern, and then a huge one if they win on Saturday against UMass Dartmouth, number 1 and number 2 in the conference. That game's on Wednesday at 5:30 here in Boston.
Quinones too strong. Back the other way. It's Springer who lays it in.
Springer's brought a nice little spark off the bench. She's been aggressive, and that's exactly what you want to see when your team's down big early.
About a 2-second differential shot in game clock. That three way too strong in the corner for UMass Boston.
Nice block from Fulton there in transition.
8 seconds left in the quarter. Gautier hits Quinones, can't finish, back up. Still a second left, and the Beacons can't score. But a 15-point lead at the end of the first. A thrashing of the Bulldogs in the opening 10 minutes. UMass Boston trying to keep it up and go to 18-2 on the year. Still 3 quarters to play. We'll step aside and come back. You're watching UMass Boston women's basketball on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
End of one in Boston. Getting set for the second quarter here at the Clark Athletic Center. Seth Orinsky and Brendan Glass-Sheen. 26-11. UMass Boston, they've already had a total of 12 players check into this game, and they'd love to keep it that way.
Yeah, and I don't think we're done. We haven't seen Maya Darty yet and Sarah St. Cyrin, who only played 6 minutes the other day in a start against Rhode Island College, still at the end of the bench as well.
An aggressive drive all the way to the rim. Megan Dixon's first basket.
Well, Dixon missed about 6 or 7 games after averaging north of 10 points first semester. I think we're going to see her get a lot of offensive looks as they try to get her going here heading into the last couple of games of the season.
Scoop and score inside. That's the first we've called Shannon Rosensteel's name. Sunrise, Florida native who played at Western prior to her time with Dean College.
Yeah, it's going to be tough there as the Beacons are called for a moving pick, but Rosensteel 15 of 18 against Leslie, a tired Leslie team. I heard the post-game interview with their head coach, and they're like, just didn't have enough players towards the end of that game with only 8 players available. It's not going to be the same today against the Beacons team that has a ton of fresh bodies and that knows Rosensteel's the hot hand to slow down.
Morgan Turner is a starter. Church is starter as well back in the game. Morrison on the lob has it knocked away. UMass Boston in full throttle. Jelani Jackson's floater makes it 30-13.
And now the Beacon starters head back to the scorer's table. Things could get really ugly right now if team can't start to find some consistent offense.
Beacons will certainly take this start. Morrison jabbing a couple of times over the trees, knocks it off the backboard, and falls down. It stays with the Bulldogs.
Love that hustle, though, from Alicia Quinones to alter the shot of Morrison, recognizing that Dixon isn't quite as big, and now the Beacons will bring their starting 5 back in with 8:31 to go in the second quarter. This might be the last time that we see these 5 out there together, depending on how the rest of this game goes.
It's like making a line change in hockey, almost, with what Christina Baugh gets to do with this lead. Still a lot of time, though. Another careless turnover. Not that all turnovers are careless. Here come the Beacons. Matthews kick out, and she gives it right back.
Well, that's a slightly better turnover in that she had an idea in place. It was just a really nice read by Morgan Turner. Matthew drove baseline trying to kick for the open 3.
Beacon's bench is still fired up, stepping into a 2. It's too strong out of Turner, who has struggled in this first half. Grassi is the leading scorer for UMass Boston with 8. Kelsey's had herself a night. She's now got 10. That's the leading scorer for UMass Boston. She's made both of her threes.
And I don't know if the Beacons have missed. I know they've hit 5. Megan Dixon missed, so they've had at least 1 miss, but they're shooting really well from distance.
4 for 5 in the game. Overall, 13 for 21. Make that 5 a 6 from 3 after Kelsey's make. 20 is the lead.
And I think I picked the wrong player to watch today with Vital recognizing everyone has the hot hand. She's not going to look for her offense.
Matthew wants a turn. That's the 6th made 3 for UMass Boston in the first half.
And anytime Vital's out on the floor, she's the one setting up the baskets. Shouldn't have to do much there, but UMass Boston continues to be red hot from the field.
Matthew 2 for 2 from 3. Grassi's 2 for 2, and Kelsey is 2 for 2. 3 minutes into the second quarter. 23-point lead for UMass Boston. The runner by Turner. Off the mark, she jogs up the floor. Matthew didn't have her eyes on the home run pass.
And Matthew was recognizing the run of Kelsey in behind, was thinking a little bit before the ball got there.
Here's the senior leader in Vital. Pretty bounce pass to Matthew. Kelsey, head fakes. And Grassi decides to push it out.
2 unselfish from Kelsey.
Doesn't matter. How about that? 3 for 3 from downtown.
That's the NBA play. Pass up on a layup to find a wide open 3, and this has been as good as we've seen UMass Boston at home all year.
Grassi rips down the miss. You can see the seldom looks on the Dean College players' faces. And Graham Smith.
No, it's going to be the Beacons calling a timeout.
Okay. It's a media timeout, so we'll take it as well. 26-point lead for UMass Boston. They are raining threes, 7 for 8 in shooting, 70% from the floor overall. You're watching UMass Boston women's basketball on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
I'm the first undergraduate alumnus to lead this university. I'm very proud of that. I was literally able to transform my life because of the University of Massachusetts, and I want that for every single student that walks through the door.
Welcome back to the Clark Athletic Center. UMass Boston by 26. And if you're just joining us, Beacons are shooting 70% from the floor, and they've made 7 of 8 threes. It's been a clinic out here today.
And the Beacons are now gone 14 deep out of their possible 15 players. Kalila Hall and Maya Doherty, a pair of players in their first year of action, both out there for the first time.
Kelsey, the leader in points, with 13. And as Seth mentioned, some fresh faces checking in. Maya Doherty, the sophomore from Hyde Park, earns free throws.
Yeah, and Doherty's one of, I think it was 5 Beacons coming off of ACL or MCL injuries heading into the year. She's a player along with Osborne and unfortunately Naira Mitchell, all who came back a little bit slowly for this Beacons team, but they've really added some nice depth as Doherty's really only been playing the last 5 or 6 weeks. The one negative, Naira Mitchell did have another knee injury against UMass Dartmouth, and she's out for the year, which hurts the Beacons depth-wise in the front court as Mitchell was coming along really well to begin the month of January.
Beacons at the line tonight. They just made their first free throw, 1 of 4 from the stripe. Dean College 6 for 22 from the field thus far in the first half. A lot of steps by Corbett, no whistle.
Yeah, and Dean's just at a disadvantage because they're not only smaller than the Beacons, they're not as quick as UMass Boston. There's not one obvious trait that gives them an advantage on the floor.
We highlighted Vital before the game. She has 5 assists in this first half. Matthew, another 3 for UMass Boston, 8 for 9. Matthew is 3 for 3.
And the program record for made threes, that I have off the top of my head, 13. The Beacons have done it each of the past 2 years. 5:23 left in the second quarter. That could be something to watch.
Only 5 away to match, 8 for 9. Pull-up jumper in the paint, scatters off the top of the rim by McCall. Matthew thought about it. Vital, too strong. Just the second miss from 3 for UMass Boston. Vital's been passing so much.
And Vital comes back and gets the steal. Yeah, I mean, the Beacons 8 of 10. I think they'll settle for that.
Stripped by Turner. She's been all over the ball tonight, just having a hard time finishing for the Bulldogs, and she turns it back over to UMass Boston. Lead is 30 right now for the Beacons.
And if Eastern's watching this game, which I'm sure they'll either be watching right now or tomorrow, the good news is UMass Boston can't possibly do this in back-to-back games. So that's got to give them a little bit of solace. On the other side, Dean's probably going to come up fired up not only for the rest of this game, but in their conference game on Saturday. So I think this 30-point lead, probably we're not going to see it stretch out that much further because Pride's going to take in for Dean, and UMass Boston's going to play their reserves for the rest of this game.
Jackson's 3, in and out. Rebound Quinones, and she finishes. No one near her as she sprinted in for the offensive rebound.
Well, she was boxed out originally, but she was able to clear around the box out. And then, again, that's just a hustle play where one player wanted it more than the other.
Halfway down for India Pina, number 3 in the black. Another 3-point attempt, friendly bounce, just a 2 for Quinones.
Beacons have gotten a couple of those tonight, but it'll feel good for Quinones, who hasn't been scoring as much the last couple of games.
34-point lead for UMass Boston in the first half against Dean College, the first ever meeting between the two schools. Beacons have it back. They kick out, another 3 ball. They're starting to cool down a little bit. Pass up ahead to Turner, and she finishes.
Well, that's the old broadcaster's jinx. We talked about how hot they were shooting from distance, and all of a sudden UMass Boston's missed 3 in a row. Makes it, 8 of 12, a nice 75% mark?
First field goal in about 4 minutes for Dean College. 47-15. Down in the paint, Osborne. Or check that, Doherty. Couldn't put it home. Pina feeds Turner. She can't bank it home. And the Beacons are going to slow it down.
And Brennan, while we've got a moment, have to give a shout out to Katie Matthew, just the 10th Beacon to play in 100 career games, doing that tonight. Had the hot hand early, a couple of made three-pointers. Don't know how much we're going to see from her in terms of a big stat line just because of how wide open this game has been.
Matthew jumps on the loose ball there. Doherty sees 2-on-2. She pushes and forces a blocking foul. It's a good point. Matthew, Kelsey, just to name a couple, have been around a long time. They were in the Little East tournament title game 2 years ago. It's got to feel awfully gratifying and rewarding to have. There's still a lot to be done, of course, but just having this type of season to put all the work in and the trust of Christina Baugh to sort of revitalize the program.
Well, they made it their first 2 years. Courtney Mattingly's final year, the Beacons won 19 games, most in program history, first ever conference championship appearance. Courtney Mattingly left the program for other opportunities, and Christina Baugh came in and picked up where she left off. And then last year was a down year, 9-17. They graduated Olivia Murphy, the top scorer in program history. And this is great if you're those seniors to not really have that high point as a freshman and sophomore and then have to sit through 2 underachieving years your final 2 years.
Turner missing short. Beacons just made their 9th three out of Quinones. UMass Boston now 9 for 13 from behind the arc.
And the Beacons have crushed Dean on the glass. We talked about it in the pregame, but Dean isn't even looking for offensive rebounds on some of these possessions.
Too many steps by Dixon. Got a little too excited. Just about 90 seconds left in this first half.
Yeah, she was looking for Kalila Hall, and then the passing lane was closing quickly, then decided that she was going to dribble with it and just moved a bit too fast as the Beacons, the rare time this year, they're going to go with 5 freshmen out there with Quinones checking out. But when you have a 35-point lead, you can possibly go through some growing pains.
Kalila Hall, freshman from Cambridge. As Seth mentioned, they've continued to empty the bench due to this massive lead by 35 in this first half. Just the second team foul on UMass Boston.
And the Beacons have 18 players on the roster, 15 available tonight. Sarah St. Cyran, the only player who hasn't seen time, and she was wearing the Rip Hamilton mask before the game, which is new. So I don't know if she's quite ready to play tonight. Might have suffered that injury against Rhode Island College on Saturday.
Hall just wrestled away a rebound, and Beacons have it with under a minute to play in the first half, that is. Another aggressive drive, but an offensive foul called against Tajay Mazik.
And again, I don't mind that. If you're UMass Boston, you like the aggressiveness. It was a nice job to slide over and take the contact from Dean's Corbett, but UMass Boston has not settled at any point in this game. Their threes have been open looks. They've driven hard to the lane, and they've gotten the best shot on most of their possessions.
All the way to the rim, score it, plus the foul, Nicole Romero. She had another drive prior in the first quarter, and she gets this one to go.
But, Brendan, you look at that, and Romero's driving through contact, double-teamed, and then an awkward finish running away from the basket. That's been the story for Dean. They just haven't gotten a ton of open looks. Give credit for Romero for finishing that one.
Completes the and one. Beacons want to get 2 possessions here, trying for a 2. And they turn it over right back, so not the case. They can't get a 2 for 1. The freshman Romero again, and this time her aggressiveness is punished with the travel.
Yeah, well, you're seeing 2 very young groups out there. UMass Boston with 5 freshmen who all came off the bench. It's also a younger group out there for Dean as well. So you're going to see some of those mental mistakes here late in the quarter.
UMass Boston can likely hold for the final shot, about a 1.5 differential. Jumper way too strong in the corner. Beacons can rip it away. In the paint, the floater by Williams was left short. Shot clock violation, just a tad over a second for Dean.
And everyone thought it was the end of the half except for the 3 people out there in zebra outfits.
Well, you'd hope so. Dean has a chance to throw up a prayer. Springer is the closest to the inbounder. And she'll just dribble it out. First half is complete. 32-point lead for UMass Boston at the end of the first half. You said it, get off to a good start. And I think they might have listened, putting up 50.
Yeah, they shot extremely well. They rebounded well. They had probably a few more turnovers than they would like, but we're nitpicking when we talk about the negatives from UMass Boston. Interested to see for Dean if they can come out and execute better in the second half. They're going to be playing a lot of UMass Boston's bench. This is a chance to get better at a conference. That's what you're trying to do for both of these teams. The conference games are the ones that matter more, and UMass Boston has a couple big ones coming out in a row. So this is a chance to rest some starters and get some of the confidence up for some of their bench players.
Leading scorers for UMass Boston in the first half, Raven Kelsey, 13 points on 5 of 5 from the field, including 3 for 3 from distance. Matthew had 9 on 3 3-point makes. Quinones had 9 points, 4 of 8 from the field, and Grassi had 8 points, 2 for 2 from 3. Certainly an impressive first half for UMass Boston. We'll take a break and come back. Seth, hopefully joined by Christina Baugh, Beacon's head coach.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
Coach, first, Saturday you guys got to win, but it probably was a lot more difficult than you would like. What was the message in practice Monday and Tuesday? Because this is one of the best starts we've seen from you guys all season.
Yeah, the message was get back to Beacon basketball, which is play together. No one's good enough to do it by themselves. That's why it's a 5-on-5 game. So we talked a lot about taking uncontested shots, and when you move the ball, you know, you're able to do that. As well as on the second half, we started defending. We started playing for each other, which we didn't do in the first half at Rhode Island, which is why we were able to win that game, is because we defended. So tonight was about getting back to who we are, sharing the ball, and just playing really, really hard, no matter what the outcome is.
You looked at the box score and you said, oh my gosh, what were you most impressed in terms of the stats in this first half?
Yeah, 14 assists on 20 makes. That is a telltale sign of how your team is playing. I look at assists very crucially because I do think everyone can score. So when we're playing together and we have rhythm, 12 shots, I think we're tough to beat. So that was for me.
Finally, with a 30-point lead, I'm going to talk a little bit about Saturday. How big is it to get some of your starters a little bit less time, knowing that Eastern's going to be a really difficult game on Saturday, and then you have another couple big ones coming up after that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, these kids, I got so many young kids, they don't know how important it is to win at Eastern. But hopefully we can share the wealth and keep the lead in the second half. Hopefully we win tonight, and we'll worry about Eastern tomorrow.
Thanks so much for your time, Coach. We'll head back up top right now with Brendan Glasheen.
All right, thanks so much to Coach Baugh for joining us here at the half. Beacons by 32 here at the Clark Athletic Center. Kelsey, the leading scorer. Let's send it to men's hockey highlights after playing the very difficult Norwich team from this past Saturday. Look at the halftime team stats now between the Beacons and Bulldogs. UMass Boston with a 32-point lead over Dean College at the halftime break. And here are the numbers here. Beacons shoot 63% in that first half. And we talked about rebounding differential in this one. Beacons against their other opponents going into tonight with a solid rebounding margin of plus 9.6. Dean College -3. And the Beacons are clearly edging that category. A bunch of assists, including 6 for the freshman, or pardon, the senior transfer, Lydia Vitale. And the Beacons do turn it over quite a bit, but both teams were aggressive, and that, of course, stands out. Let's go to the individual stars from that first half. Raven Kelsey had 13 points. Romero with 5, the freshman off the bench for Dean College. As you can see, it was a gang effort. 2 players with 9, a couple of players with 3 points. Vitale with the 5 assists, as we mentioned, so not 6, but 5, and 3 steals for the senior transfer as well. All right, we'll take a look at the highlights now from that first half. And Grossi decides to push it out.
2 unselfish from Kelsey.
Doesn't matter. Highlighted Vitale before the game. She has 5 assists in this first half. Matthew, another 3 for you.
To the lane, and they've gotten the best shot on most of their possessions.
All the way to the rim. Score it plus the
And welcome back to the Clark. 5:15 to go before the start of the second half. We'll take a look around the rest of the conference. A couple of very interesting games. You've got UMass Boston against a suddenly red-hot Eastern Connecticut State team. The Beacons were able to down Eastern back on January the 6th here in Boston, 79-72. That was a close game, though, until the last 2 minutes. Eastern team that was led by Maya Viard in that one. That'll be at Eastern, a place that has been very difficult for UMass Boston to win the last couple of years. Game to watch, though, that's one of them. The other one, UMass Dartmouth at University of Southern Maine. UMass Dartmouth undefeated in conference play. They are 9-0, 15-3 overall at Southern Maine, a team that led them by 16 at halftime the first time those two teams played. Southern Maine led by a 33-17 score, eventually lost by 8. Southern Maine, who sits just a game behind UMass Boston in third place at 7-2, 10-9 overall, will look for the victory over the Corsairs. The Beacons certainly should be rooting for the Huskies in the games that don't matter as much to the conference standings. Rhode Island College and Keene State both tied for 6th place at 1-8. One of those teams will pick up their second win. Keene picked up their first win in conference play last week against Plymouth State, who coincidentally will be hosting Western Connecticut State, who sits right now in a distant 5th place at 3-6. Moving along in our halftime show, we'll take a look at some more highlights. This time it'll be the men's basketball highlights. Men's team had a couple of really close ones last week. At home, they defeated Southern Maine 69-66 on a Mike Boyd game-winning 3 with 11 seconds left. On Saturday at Rick, they took to the last 15 seconds. Dason Sinelia go-ahead lay-in. So UMass Boston went 2-0 in conference play to move to 4th place in the conference. Take a look right now around the rest of Beaconville. No other games today, but it'll be a busy weekend for UMass Boston winter sports. The women's hockey team, they're at home for 2 games this weekend. Only team at home on Friday and Saturday. They host Southern Maine, and then Senior Day on Saturday at 1 against the University of New England. Men's hockey coming off a rough one, a 1-goal loss to Norwich. They're at Skidmore for the second time this year. They're 2-0 thus far against the Thoroughbreds. Men's basketball, tough one on Saturday. They'll be at 3 p.m. after the Beacons play the Warriors at 1. So they take on the number 16 team in the country. Have to give a shout-out to our track and field teams. They're at the Reggie Lewis Center this weekend for the NEI-CAA Championships. They'll look to set up a couple more records as they have been having a phenomenal year. The women's team up to 9th in the country. Real quick, while we wait for Dean to just come back to the gym, 10 minutes on the clock, let's take a look ahead for UMass Boston. This is their last non-conference game, and they'll head to Eastern on Saturday before hosting UMass Dartmouth and Plymouth State next week. 3 of the Beacons' final 5 all-conference games will come here at home as Dean has a few too many players out on the court to start the second half.
The Bulldogs got the memo a little late.
Yeah, I'm sure head coach Graham Smith had a couple of things that he wanted to talk to his team about, and you and I talked about it off air. Big part of it is just keeping your head up. There were a couple points where, especially when the Beacons were going really good, that we saw Dean maybe not get back on defense out of frustration or not play as good of defense as they're capable of. That's what they're going to look for here in the second half. Sort of forget about the score.
UMass Boston opens the second half with its starting lineup. They had 11 turnovers in the first half, and they turn it over for the 12th time. There's one Achilles heel to this performance tonight. It has been the turnovers. They've been aggressive, but at the same time, when you put up 50 points, there are going to be some things you want to work on.
Yeah, and I think part of that has been the second unit. Part of that has been a couple of charges on the Beacons and just a game that has been sloppy at points. But that was good from Dean on that first defensive possession. A tie-up, and there, another instance of Dean going to the floor for those loose balls. That's something that you can continue working on no matter the score. There's better hustle here to start the second half.
Vitale sets up shop for UMass Boston. As Osborne posts up, there's a whistle against Morgan Turner. Certainly a size differential to look out for. You've seen that throughout the course of the night. It's been a tough night for Turner, who's dominated the ball a bunch for Dean, but struggling to put the ball in the hoop.
Yeah, you like the fact that she wants the ball, but it's just not necessarily her scoring night.
Off the deflection, Vitale kicks to Kelsey. Thought about pulling up. Nice dish. Grossi does the rest.
Assist number 15 now of the night, and that's what the first thing the coach focused on for UMass Boston, the fact that the Beacons have been so unselfish.
Vitale has 5 of them. You could call that one a hockey assist. And the lead is back up to 34. It was as many as 35 in that first half. Bounce pass, Turner in the lane, still struggling to put the ball in.
Yeah, at some point it just becomes mental.
On the run out, Vitale, a rare turnover, looking for Grossi. She pressures the backcourt and then falls back in to the set defense. Springer feeds, and Turner sees it go down.
Much better showing from Dean here in the first 2 minutes of quarter number 3. Whatever Graham Smith said to his team, they've really responded well.
Vitale off the screen. Matthew not looking for the shot. Osborne, one dribble. Kelsey is there. And a whistle before the follow-up. They'll get Romero, the freshman. I'm going to check that. It's Springer, number 0. Second foul on Dean in the second half. Here in the third quarter. Grossi pulls up. Matthew on the glass. Kelsey strips it away. Scoop no good. Osborne cleans it up for her.
Beacons pick up 2 offensive rebounds, win the battle to a loose ball, and that's the reason they pick up 2 points on that possession. Doesn't hurt that they're a lot longer than this Dean team is.
Turner in and out on the jumper. Vitale pushing. Matthew to Osborne. Free throws coming her way.
And for Turner, that's foul number 3. Only picked up 1 in the first half, but she's been charged with 2 of the first 3 here in the second half. Turner's got a difficult matchup on the defensive end, guarding the much bigger Osborne, who's also a little bit taller. But she's forced some shots. She's now has 10 shot attempts at minimum. I think she's 2 of 10 at this point. Outside of Morgan Turner, no one else has attempted more than 4 shots for Dean.
And maybe because of that difficulty on the defensive end, that's affecting her ability to finish on the offensive end. 1 for 2 trip, or pardon, 2 for 2 trip. For Osborne, she's going to the pine now. Beacon's largest lead, 36.
And Osborne has now played just about 9 minutes. I think the Beacons are going to try to keep her under 15 today. Coming off an ACL injury where they've brought her back slowly. She's a player the Beacons want to have fresh for Saturday when they're going to have to play Maya Viard for Eastern, one of the better bigs in the entire Little East Conference.
Raven Kelsey displaying her quickness. That's flashed tonight, her shooting touch as well. The leading scorer in that first half with 13 points. Just having seen the program over the last couple of years, I don't remember her being a knockdown shooter, and those threes going in was fun to watch in the first half.
She spent a lot of time in the gym over the summers and just individually here, finding a way to become a better three-point shooter.
Kicks out to Matthew, and her stroke is short. Knocked out of bounds by Jemiah Cleveland. Beacons keep the ball.
And Brendan, the thing I like the most about Kelsey's game and even Vitale's game is they're both excellent defenders, players who commit on the defensive side. And I think when you have your senior leaders, those two along with Matthew, who's also a very good hustle defender, it helps the rest of your freshmen realize how important that is, and that means the entire team works harder on the defensive end. There's another foul. That's 4 on Dean here in the opening 3:20. This one I think is going to go on Shania Springer. Just little bit too much contact on Vital.
That's the 4th on Dean College. That's Springer's.
I think they're going to get it for 2 now.
Here's Kelsey against Romero. Step away. Money.
Great screen from Gianna Williams to open up Kelsey, who's pretty deadly from the free throw line in. And this has been a nice answer to Dean's hot start to the half as UMass Boston started to execute better offensively.
Up to 38. Kelsey has 15 points. Romero has her lob disrupted. Grassi feeds Vital. Kelsey in stride. Looking to knock away the loose ball. Cleveland secures it.
Well, I got a chance to watch Raven in high school, and she was at O'Brien High School. They were consistently one of the top 2 or 3 programs, but didn't have the skill of some of the other sides. They just worked extremely hard, and Kelsey was the ultimate grinder, player who struggled with her shot, so sometimes she needed 2, 3, 4 shots on a possession, but she just never gave up on loose balls, and a lot of times she'd end up with 18 points, 14, 15 rebounds, and a couple of steals because of that motor.
UMass Boston with a flurry of substitutions coming in.
And already the starting 5 on the bench, 5 freshman reserves in there, and we're not even at the halfway point of this third quarter.
Whitney Fulton interrupted a shot, and then Romero lost the pass. Rosensteel just got fouled. We highlighted Shannon Rosensteel before the game for Dean, and Beacons certainly have put pressure on her in the paint. Just 2 points on 1 of 4 shooting in that first half.
Well, this Dean team is used to not playing huge bigs. Osborne's a player who is getting Division I looks, and there's not a lot of those kind of players in the New England Collegiate Conference, and I think that's been a big part of it. Also, Joey Grassi is extremely talented on both sides of the ball.
Fade away by Jackson. Twirls off the iron. Here comes Dean down 38. Romero had a team-high 5 points for the Bulldogs in the first half. 2-on-1 break. Jackson almost put it home, but blocked herself. Now 2-on-1 the other way. 2 plus the foul. Rosensteel with her second made basket, and she looks to complete the and-1.
I think Jackson made the right decision. She didn't have a great passing lane for Fulton on the one end. Gianna Williams has to make a better decision, and somehow Gianna Williams now has 4 fouls. I think she's the only player in real foul trouble for UMass Boston and for either side. The Beacons have had 9 fouls, and 4 of them have gone on Gianna, so she's going to have to sit for a while, and the Beacons are going to go very small. They don't have a player who really is listed as more than a small forward at this point out on the floor.
Kaylee Gauthier checks back in for the Beacons. She had 2 minutes of run in the first half. Midway point third quarter, and a 36-point edge. We'll take the timeout as well. 36-point lead for UMass Boston. You're watching Beacons women's basketball on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
The University of Massachusetts Boston, with its scenic oceanfront campus, easily accessible to downtown Boston, is recognized as a model of excellence for urban public universities. 16 NCAA Division III sports are part of the more than 100 student organizations that create an engaging campus life in America's biggest and best college town. UMass Boston, Boston's urban public research university for the 21st century.
.4:59 left in the third quarter. It's been all UMass Boston here with a 36-point lead. Just about 15 minutes to go. Brendan, this is your first time seeing UMass Boston. It's obviously a very different looking team past couple years. What's been your biggest surprise or maybe just biggest observation about this side.
Yeah, Olivia Murphy was a heck of a player a couple years ago, and she sort of just dominated the ball, and they found ways to get her going because of her talent. And I think the shooting has just is what stood out. I mean, it's obvious when you make 8 of 9 threes to start the game. So many knockdown threats, and your key to the game was spreading the wealth. What team in college basketball doesn't want to get their bench more involved? And they answered the call in that first half, putting up 50 points.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch this team because coach and the players have focused on the fact that any night it can be a different player, and I think it's pretty obvious when you have as much talent on this team. I mean, Kelsey's gone off tonight, but it could have been any one of the 5 starters or one of the bench players who could have 15 points.
Well, Matthew made her first threes. Quinones made her first 3. So everyone was sharp, laser focused from opening tip. Up the other end, trying to force a pass in. Pina has the ball kicked out, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to give Whitney Fulton a nice little a kick save and a butte, but she's not going to get credit with the steal on that one.
Dean trying to set up. A whistle off the ball away from Pina. I think they'll get UMass Boston in the paint. It is against,
I think they're going to have Mazik. And not surprisingly, we mentioned it earlier, Dean with 4 straight fouls to start the quarter. They've gotten UMass Boston back for 3. Fouls seem to be a little cyclical, especially in college basketball.
Not many three-point attempts in that first half. Great cleanup on the block by, that was McCall, Chantel McCall for the Bulldogs.
A little bit of full court pressure here by Dean, just trying to see if they can generate some offense through their defense. First time we've seen them go into any kind of press.
Kick to the corner, 3 is good. Number 10 of the game for UMass Boston, it's Megan Dixon.
And that's great to see. Dixon is such a good spot-up shooter, and where she becomes a really difficult cover is the fact that she can pump fake and then drive hard to the basket and finish. That's what UMass Boston can use a little bit more out of off their bench.
First, second half 3 for the Beacons. Pretty turnaround J by Pina. Back down to 35. Dixon kicks out. Scoop pass, what a play!
All 5 players touching the ball on that one, and Gaudier, a nice finish in traffic. This is really fun to watch. This group is having fun, and you see the entire bench up on their feet. It's games like this where everyone knows they're going to get a chance that you see the most energy. It's good to see out of the seniors and the starters who know their day's probably done that they're just as excited.
And Fulton threaded the needle on the pass.
Beacons were able to break the press very easily there.
2:30 left in the third. As you can see, the score indicates a lot of happy faces on the UMass Boston side. Dixon just made a 3 a moment ago, and she draws the foul. It's now the double bonus, or the 5-foul bonus on the Dean side, so free throws coming here for Dixon.
And the Beacons have been relatively quiet offensively here in the quarter. After scoring 26 in the first, 24 in the second, they only have 13 here in the third, but they're still outscoring Dean 13-8. So even in a quarter where it's a little bit closer, Dean still sees the lead extend out further in favor of the Beacons. And this is Dixon's best offensive game since returning. She had 5 in limited minutes against Rhode Island College. I think she's up to 7 at this point with 12 minutes left.
It's up to 39 now, the lead for UMass Boston. Springer has the ball. Jackson defending. A couple of off-ball screens in the paint. On the block. Good defense by UMass Boston. They hold off Rosensteel. Now Jackson wants to run a set play. Christina Baugh is still full of energy, trying to direct her younger talent on the floor, and a whistle off the ball. More free throws coming for the Beacons.
I think they actually got Springer for a hand check there, trying to trail Jackson. It didn't look like much from up here, and Springer couldn't believe it, but they have been calling some of those minor fouls tonight, and Springer now second player for Dean with 3 fouls.
Jelani Jackson, 5'3" freshman from Brockton, Mass. Beacons ahead by 40 points.
And they've shot the ball pretty well from the free throw line after a 1 of 4 start.
For the night, UMass Boston 10 of 15 from the stripe.
Probably a good thing, because that's something Christina Baugh would certainly harp about no matter the score if the Beacons struggled from the charity stripe.
Pina lost her dribble. Cleveland feeds the post. Jumper good. Well executed play. McCall, the senior who comes off the bench, placing it in.
Yeah, the Beacons are not used to these kind of lineups right now where they have 5 guards out there. They're having some players have to play some post defense that they're not familiar with.
Dixon trades hands and kicked out to an open shooter. Gauthier couldn't put it home.
Yeah, the Beacons bench really wanted that. Gauthier is a player who doesn't look for her own shot that much when she's out there. She doesn't see that much time. And the Beacons are just really excited to see her in this kind of situation where she has a chance to get a lot of run time.
Dixon, another 3, number 11 of the night for UMass Boston.
It's close to NBA range, well behind the three-point line. She's starting to get her shot back, and that could be a real problem for the rest of the Little East Conference.
And by the way, I had said before that they were 10 for 15 from the line. I meant from 3. So the Beacons are 10, now 11 of 19 from 3, 7 of 10 at the line.
10 of 15 from 3. That's incredible.
It feels like those stats should be reversed. 70 to 30, 100 combined points, and 70 of them belong to UMass Boston. We make the turn for home. 4th quarter on the way. Beacons by 40 on Dean College. You're watching UMass Boston women's basketball on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
The 5-campus UMass system is the university that educates the workforce of Massachusetts. We recognize that we are truly here for a reason, and that recognition inspires us and drives us every single day.
Welcome back to the Clark Athletic Center. 10 minutes to play. UMass Boston all over Dean College. First ever meeting between the two programs. Dean an 11-7 record in the New England Collegiate Conference. Also a winning record there, 8-2. First year as an official Division III program. And UMass Boston, of course, coming off a tough year a year ago. They've been a well-oiled machine tonight. They've made 11 threes on 19 attempts. That's 59%. Like I said to you before, the shooting effort has been super impressive.
Yeah, the Beacons now with, 10 made threes. The question is, can they make it 14? That's the program record to watch. And Christina Baugh mixing and matching now. More Shania Osborne and Lydia Vital out there with Katie Matthews, so 3 starters, and then Kalila Hall, who didn't see much time in the first half, and Alicia Quinones, who did not appear in that third quarter.
Fake in the corner by Hall. She'll dribble it back to herself, and Vitale sets up. Hall pull up at the free throw line. A little strong. One thing I'll add, too, I think what's been impressive about this game, the Beacons haven't looked like they've had to really rush their shot. They've been getting a lot of looks that you'd want in a set play. They haven't had to throw up shots at the end of the shot clock tonight.
No, with the exception of that last possession of the second quarter where the Beacons didn't recognize the shot clock, I don't think they've had maybe more than 1 or 2 contested shots all night. It's been good looks. It's been looks where the Beacons have been wide open or right next to the hoop. I mean, this is as well as an orchestrated offensive attack as you could possibly ask for, and really good after a game where the Beacons couldn't get anything going offensively for the first 30-plus minutes.
Minute into the fourth quarter. Fadeaway J in the paint by McCall.
McCall's had a nice game off the bench. She definitely has some post moves, and she doesn't really seem to be fazed by the size of Osborne.
Katie Matthew back in there, the senior. McCall, the team leader in points for Dean College at this point in the game. 6 points, 3 of 7 from the field.
Yeah, I mean, through 3 quarters, Dean had 30 points. In the last game, Rosensteel had 30 points by herself. So
crazy.
It's not a surprise that this team has struggled to put a player into double digits. They just haven't been able to get anything going. And they've had some looks that just haven't fallen. It's not like they're getting terrible possessions every time down.
Cleveland feeds the post, and the rest done in the paint. Great finish there by Sophia Corbett, Framingham native. Vitale trying to scoop and score. And she corrals the loose ball. Tight roping the sideline, eventually does to get turned over. Step through by Cleveland. Out of bounds, it stays with Dean College. Seth, one thing you had mentioned before the game is trying to get 4 or 5 players into double figures tonight. Grassi with 10. Dixon has 10 on 2 made threes. Kelsey with the 15 points. And 2 more players on the brink of going to double figures. Quinones has 9 and Matthew has 9.
Yeah, and that's what you wanted to see, the balanced kind of scoring. I think UMass Boston would be happy to have 0 players with double digits and 10 players with 6 or 7 or 8 because that means that it's more difficult for the opposition to really focus in on one person. And this is the kind of game UMass Boston can have 5 players in double digits on Saturday or on Wednesday or on the following Wednesday when they play Southern Maine. I think they're probably going to win most of those games. You look at the Beacons games they've struggled this year, they haven't had the kind of balanced scoring. They had 1 or 2 players finish in double digits against Colby and against UMass Dartmouth in their 30-point loss back in earlier January. Osborne was the only player who finished in double figures. Nair Mitchell had 7. The Beacon seniors went 1 for 18, I believe, in that game. So to get the kind of balanced scoring they've had tonight has to give them some confidence heading into one of their biggest stretches of the year. These next 4 conference games are going to go a long way to determining if UMass Boston could potentially host their first ever conference semifinals and finals.
So out of the media timeout, it is Dean basketball. They're down 36. Beacons have led by as many as 40. Springer head fakes, kicks out. McCall has been the hot shooter on the Dean side. Springer runs down the miss, but the Beacons now can run with numbers. 4-on-2. Matthew to an open Kelsey. Yes! 18 for Raven Kelsey.
And that's UMass Boston's 3 seniors. They have such good chemistry despite the fact it's the first year Vitale has played with the other 2. Vitale, the steal, pushes the ball in transition, finds an open Matthew who elects not to take the shot, knows Kelsey's going to be there in transition, just camping out looking for the 3, and it's an easy 3-pointer.
Ball plopping on the floor. Kelsey leaps on it, and it belongs to the Beacons. Her shooting night has been nothing short of efficient. 7 of 9 overall, 4 for 4 from 3, and the game's leading scorer at 18 a game.
And this is great. I mean, the one thing that Kelsey has done this year, she's tried to look for her shot less to spread the wealth, but the Beacons want her to look for her shot because she is a dynamic scorer who can shoot the ball from distance, something she's worked on, but also score effectively in the paint and even the long two, as we've got a discussion, I believe, about the possession arrow right now.
Well, that's going on. The Beacons, we've talked about their record. If they want to tie the record for threes made in a game in program history, it's 13. They're at 12 now on 20 attempts. That's 60%. They're shooting better from 3 than from 2 in this game. Kelsey off the catch. Might have forced one up. Quinones grabs the board, and the Beacons have a fresh 30. Kelsey wants to drive. Feeds Grossi. And her attempt is way off. All the way to the basket. Great step through by McCall. She has 8.
I think McCall's had a really good second half, and Springer. Those are the two players who have really fought all game long despite the score, and they're bringing great energy.
Bounce pass, threading the needle. Vitale finding Katie Matthew.
And Corbett slipped underneath her. Enough contact for the foul. Matthew probably kicking herself that she couldn't have finished there for a possible three-point play.
And should check that Chantel McCall now in double figures, the first Dean player to get there tonight. She has 10 points on 5 of 10. Speaking of double figures, a made free throw here for Matthew gives her 10.
That was just her 14th free throw attempt of the year. She's not a player who spends a lot of time down low, but now 8 of 14.
75 points for the Beacons after scoring 50 in the first half. Lead is 39. Dribble picked up, swiped away. Vitale showing off her quickness. Kelsey over her right shoulder. Grossi pressured, and she lost it. After the tie-up, jumper fired away and off the top of the iron. And a whistle in the backcourt.
The Beacons are going to call a timeout. Christina Baugh thought that Joey Grossi might have been fouled, but I think she also wants to head back to her bench. We've seen a lot of the starters to start this fourth quarter, and she wants to give those bench players one last long run here with 6:11 to go. As UMass Boston's been able to manage the minutes of some of their starters who likely will be playing 25 to 30 minutes on Saturday against Eastern rather than the 15 to 20 they played today.
A whole new 5 set to check in next whistle. We see them all jog to the scorer's table. Well, let's look at it from the other side, right? You have this big lead, up 39. You're going back to league play, a big game, as you mentioned, against Eastern. You're going to take a lot of positives out of this basketball game, but how do you put it in perspective when you know your opponent is just simply a lot better?
Well, I think the easiest thing is you just have to go back to the first game. It's not as if the Beacons dominated Eastern. It was a 79-72 game because the Beacons didn't finish off Eastern in the second and third quarter when they had the chance. Maya Villard finished with 20-plus points. The Beacons struggled to stop her, and Eastern cut the deficit, I think, to 1 with about 90 seconds left. So you can say, hey, great performance against a team that's not quite as good as you. This Eastern team, they're fully capable of beating you, and it just comes down to you having to put out an even better effort against Eastern, especially minimizing the turnovers.
Six minutes to go. Beacons empty the Pine. McCall grabs the miss. Feed over her shoulder. And the pass out of reach for Corbett. Back to the Beacons.
Yeah, that was a good look. Just a little bit too hot to handle for Corbett. And right now, UMass Boston, they want to run some good sets. Jelani Jackson, Tajay Mazik, two of their their point guards of the future out on the floor right now. And these two players have a chance to really execute here in a game where there's no pressure offensively.
Cause turnover. McCall's got 12. We approach the midway point of the fourth quarter. Quinones lost her dribble and deflected out of bounds. Heads up play by Pina.
And I think if you're Dean, you can point to the second half where they haven't been outscored by nearly as much as they were in the first half as a positive sign, because this team heads home. They've got Southern Vermont College on Saturday before they finish off with 5 more conference games after that. They're in second place in the NECC with 2 losses. I mean, this team has a chance to finish off the season strong. Not sure if they're eligible for the postseason, being this their first D3 year. I know you're not if you move up to Division II and Division I, but either way, a chance to finish off the season strong, postseason or not.
Mazik had the previous basket for the Beacons.
Right now, the Beacons are trying to find Gianna Williams, who will kick it out. Doherty.
She couldn't put it home there.
Yeah, Beacons struggling to get that extra special 3.
How about the block? An authoritative punishment by Gianna Williams.
Williams has had a really nice night. This is a team that doesn't run all that big, and Williams has had a size advantage pretty much across the board. Although Dean will bring in one of their bigger players. First time tonight that we've seen.
Tara Griffith.
Yeah, stands at 6'2". She's one of the team's leaders.
Played at Oak Hill Academy.
Famous for their boys basketball.
Yep, she's from Los Angeles.
And I don't know what the deal is there, but during their warm-ups, they had an extensive hour-long warm-up before the game, and she was the vocal leader in leading stretches and going through the layup line.
Jumper on the way, Quinones, no good. 2-on-1 break if they push here. Turner hits the player in stride. And that was Church exploding. She comes up wincing a little bit.
Good, strong foul from Jackson in that situation. Biggest thing is don't let the player get the ball to the rim. And Jackson came down hard on the arm and the ball, forcing Dean to earn it the hard way from the free throw line.
Church's first one, no good. The line tonight, these are just the second trip to the line tonight for Dean College.
Yeah, 1 for 3. That's probably a problematic mark for Dean in terms of playing against a bigger Beacons team. The other thing is Dean shot a season-high 54.4, so we're going to get Williams for stepping in there. 54.4 on Tuesday against Leslie, 34.5 right now. They're actually going to get the Dean player who stepped in first. I think it was Tara Griffith who stepped in before Williams. So the free throw is null and void. Thought it was going to go the other way.
There's the fresh body off the bench getting the miss. And a travel against Dean College. Again, that was Griffith, who snatched it away after Mazik could not lay it in.
Yeah, I think that's the first touch for Sam Correa, and just got a little bit over-eager there. Some of these Dean players who aren't used to seeing a ton of minutes.
Romero remains out there. She's been a spark plug tonight. Mazik drills the jumper.
Mazik's a really good spot-up shooter. She's given enough time where she can really set herself. going to hit more often than not. And she's really the best scoring option out amongst the 5 right now.
Romero tied up, throws it up, and it's knocked away. Here comes Mazik. Pull-up jumper. It's good.
Making me look smart. I mean, everybody was expecting her to take that to the lane, but she feels comfortable with that pull-up and now has back-to-back baskets.
Once again, the Beacons are on the road this weekend against Eastern, a team they saw January 6th. And they earned a 7-point win here at home. That's the next challenge. It's conference play, Little East play the rest of the way after tonight. With this 40-point lead, it's safe to say we can look ahead a little bit with about 2 minutes left. And you've highlighted the matchup. You talked to Coach Baud halftime as she's trying to get everyone acclimated here, getting some players some minutes, some rested bodies for this upcoming Saturday.
Well, it's so important. This is the bye week in Little East play. It's the only week where there's not a Wednesday game here after the first week of January, because that one's well off the mark. You want to not overexert yourself on a Thursday, because typically you play Tuesday or Wednesday non-conference games. The Beacons, the lone LEC team playing today or tomorrow.
Tremendous lob over the top. Romero couldn't put it in. Mazik, no good. And a whistle over the back against Tara Griffith, 20 in black. That is the 3rd foul against Dean College here in the 4th.
It's a great hustle play by Gaudier, who was able to get the better position despite starting out a little bit further away from the play, keeping the possession alive for the Beacons.
Wide open 3, too strong.
Yeah, the Beacons bench wanted that. Gaudier still looking for that first collegiate 3.
And the Beacons still have 12 made threes in the game, one away from tying a program record in a single game. They'll try again. Fulton had a foot on the line, too strong. Jackson will swerve out, and the Beacons can run some clock here. 1:10 left and 20 on the shot clock. Seth will be joined by Coach Baugh after the game. Get her thoughts on this one. Gaudier could not finish. She's still all smiles, realizing she had a wide open look. Romero, one dribble, scoop and score.
I mean, for Gaudier, this is a game where she's probably seen more minutes. She's definitely seen more looks than she's had at any point in her career. And for any of these players, you look at college basketball or college soccer, college hockey, every single player who makes it to this level was a starter in high school, one of the best players on their team, and then you come to college and maybe you're not the #1 player on the team. It's a little bit difficult, especially mentally, to take on a different role. So it's fun when you get out there and you actually get a chance to succeed.
Dixon falls down, no travel whistle. And UMass Boston runs some clock.
Have to take a shot here.
Yep, 4 to shoot. Jackson's just going to take the violation, instructed by her head coach, Christina Baugh.
Good sportsmanship there. I'm sure Christina Baugh doesn't know about the three-point record. I'm sure Christina Baugh doesn't care about the three-point record like us up top. And realistically, I don't know what the scheduling agreement was between these two schools, but they might be back together again next year at Dean or here in Boston, so you don't want to do anything that'll cause some ill blood between the two sides.
Well, when you consider the abundance of freshmen and sophomores, and you got to consider maybe, hey, Dean's got a chance in the next couple of years to really make some noise.
And this is their first year at the Division III level. Had a lot of success the last couple of years as a junior college, but there's different recruiting rules, there's different eligibility rules between the two levels, so they probably had to take a slightly different approach to how they recruit, and it's just going to be a learning curve. They had a lot of success previously coming to Division III, and I'm sure they're going to have a lot of success going forward with all of their programs.
This is Corbett at the line. .37 win for UMass Boston over non-conference foe Dean College. The Beacons improved to 18-2, and it's Little East play the rest of the way, starting on Saturday against Eastern.
Well, 9-1 in non-conference is huge for a young team where most of those games came first semester all in a row, and the Beacons were able, even with the young group, to learn how to win. And this one was a little bit easier than most, but UMass Boston continuing to show why they're going to be a difficult out going through the rest of the way. They have so many different weapons, and it all started on the defensive end.
All right, we'll step aside. We'll come back. Seth hopefully joined by Christina Baugh, and she'll discuss what went down tonight and how the Beacons use this game to propel them in conference play.
You tell me it gets better in time. You say I pull myself.
It's on us.
It's on us.
It's on us.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
It's on us to act as a family and protect one another.
Not hurt one another. It's on us to trust our instincts and be direct.
To talk openly and honestly about sexual assault.
It's on us.
To not be a bystander. If you see something, say something.
And to intervene in any way that you can.
It's on us.
If someone does not or cannot consent to sex, that is rape.
Consent is voluntary and mutual. It can be withdrawn at any time.
And past consent does not mean current or future consent.
There is no consent when there is force, intimidation, or coercion.
1 out of every 16 male college students are raped.
And 1 out of every 5 female college students. Which one of us?
And which one of us?
One thing that we all need to remember is
to never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stop it at the source.
And to spread the word.
So take the pledge and get involved.
The pledge is a personal commitment to help keep men and women safe from sexual assault.
It is a promise not to be a bystander to the problem.
But to be a part of the solution.
It's on us. It's on us.
It's on us.
Christina Baugh, coach, the focus wasn't as much about the score in the second half as it was maybe about some execution, players getting more time. What did you see out of some of your younger players who maybe haven't seen as much time in crucial moments this year, who might have more chances going forward in their career at UMass Boston?
Yeah, we've been talking about getting Jelani a couple more minutes. I thought she did a great job handling tempo with some of the bench kids. I thought Kaylee Gaudier came in and gobbled up the rebounds and played pretty solid, didn't make a lot of mistakes. So it was good to get deep into the bench today and see what they could do in game-like situations.
One player who's trying to work her way back into the rotation, Megan Dixon, offensive firepower in the first semester, hasn't been able to score as much here. 10 points today. How much could she help you guys down the stretch run with another player who's capable of scoring a lot of points in a short period?
Absolutely. Megan's a special talent, and some kids got to get out of their own way and just relax. So she just kind of has to let the flow come back to her, and she's going to be great for us down the stretch. That'll be a lot of fun to watch her and Katie Matthew lighten it up.
Finally, Eastern on Saturday. We already talked about it. How does a game like this, where everyone's going to come out with a little bit more confidence, help going into a tough road atmosphere?
Yeah, it's going to really help. I love going on the road. It's us against the world. And if we can come out and fight like we did the first 20 minutes, we should have the same outcome.
Thanks so much for your time. Congratulations. We'll head back up top and look at the highlights from the second half before we close out on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Kelsey against Romero. Step away. Money. Grayson almost put it home, but blocked herself. Now 2-on-1. The other way. 2 plus the
go into any kind of press.
Kick to the corner. Three is good. Number 10 with numbers. 4-on-2. Matthew to an open Kelsey. Yes. 8
here in a game where there's no pressure offensively.
Caused turnover. McCall's got 12.
Pitch swung on and missed.
Kyle Strowski from Agawam, Massachusetts. I'm a senior here at UMass Boston. I'm a marketing major. Probably have to say my favorite moment was my no-hitter my freshman year. Being a freshman, especially just making a statement right away. Seeing the reactions on the seniors' faces. It was something that was a lot of fun to be a part of. If you want to play and you want to compete for championship every year, you would definitely UMass Boston is a good place to come look at.
And now this one's launched right center field. That's going to win the game for the Beacons. It is down.
LEC is probably best division in college D3 baseball in the country. Play against the top competition every year. I think we have a top 10 schedule in the country this year. So we're young, but we also mix in with a good group of junior college transfers. Being on the baseball team here at UMass is a good experience, great experience. Only about 2% of people can play college baseball, and one that I'll take for me for the rest of my life.
Kyle Fields fires the first, great scoop from Jason Cholin.
Take me out to the ball game, take me out to the crowd, buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
The UMass Boston Beacons baseball team, who went 23-15 this year and have consistently been a leader in their conference without having a home field to play on. That will change next season.
I am so happy and excited to join Boston College High School and your wonderful president to celebrate this symbol of our institution's friendship as well as our shared commitment to this special neighborhood. Not only are we thrilled to be building a
Here's the final statistical breakdown for tonight's game. UMass Boston scoring a big win over Dean College. They finished shooting just 44% from the floor, but the three-point percentage certainly stands out. Beacons out-rebound the Bulldogs by 5, and they had 12 more assists in the game, and they forced 26 Dean College turnovers. And we look at the team leaders from tonight. Raven Kelsey with 18. She didn't miss a single three-pointer. She went 4 for 4. Katie Matthew had 11 in the contest. We mentioned Vital before the game. She had 5 assists in the contest and a nice performance out of McCall on the Dean side. She had 12 to lead the way for the Bulldogs. Coming up for UMass Boston, they are back in conference play, a rematch from January 6th at Eastern Connecticut State. 1 p.m. start on the road. They're back home against a really good UMass Dartmouth team, the team ranked ahead of them in the conference on February 7th. That one's at 5:30 right here on the Beacons Broadcast Network. Also, Plymouth State is another game you can watch right here on the network. Thanks so much to our entire crew for tonight, Seth and myself on the air, as well as Director Anthony Searles and Alyssa Fugel. Thanks so much to everyone for watching. Beacons score the big win, 81-41 over Dean College. And you watched all the action tonight on the Beacons Broadcast Network. Thanks for watching.